Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the elders and bishops of Great Millstone who teach and rule well, and salutations to the beloved prophets and brothers continue to exhort the sheep in these last days, and a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect listening in, to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, shalom, shalom. Today, we will go into the story of Lot when he fled out of Sodom and Gomorrah, found in Genesis chapter 19, and approach this with a prophetic lens and what is being said throughout the scriptures. We're going to compile our understanding with several verses, prophetic verses, to give the context that the embedded message throughout the scriptures has always had a hint of the reunification of the northern and southern kingdom, and being delivered before said judgments. So as we explore the story of Lot, we're going to be looking at this through not only surface level understanding read as it is, but we're going to apply the spiritual lens and the prophetic lens in what's being said throughout. So prophecy says that until the time, at the time of the end, in the latter days, that the Most High Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, is going to send forth that that Rawak HaKodash to the predestined priests that are going to be reestablished under the order of Melchizedek, reigning alongside Yahweh Shai, the house of David, reigning in righteousness throughout the four corners of the earth, upon the dispersed coming back to the unity of the fold and the proper understanding of the scriptures, the doctrine. So let's dive in with Genesis chapter 19, starting from the very tippy top. And it says, and there came two angels to Sodom at even. These two angels are representative as the two witnesses that are found in Revelations chapter 11. The two witnesses would be the northern and southern kingdom, the whole house coming together again and being that house of fishes that are retrieving the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? And there came two angels, this representative of the northern and southern kingdom. And at even, this is at nighttime. So the prophets are warning you before said judgments. It's a dark and gloomy time. Righteousness cannot be found. So this is, even at dark, is representative of a time that is not in light, not in the wisdom of knowledge, not in the wisdom of keeping the commands. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Lot, when you go into the Hebrew lexicon or the blue letter Bible, Lot is representative as covering. Lot equals covering. And who is our covering? Yahweh Shai. His blood is our covering. So when we receive and believe Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, and he comes in and sups with us, and we take on that knowledge that he is teaching us through the Father, he becomes our covering, because it's only through the testimony and the faith that we are given that covering. Jumping back into the first verse. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate. Lot sat in the gate. Let's go to Proverbs 8 and 34. Proverbs 8 and 34. Proverbs 8 and 34. Lot sat in the gate. 8 and 34 reads, Blessed is the man that heareth me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the post of my doors. Lot represents the elect who continuously sat at the gates and waited patiently for the prophecies and the blessings and the curses and all these things that were coming to pass. And he received the two angels. Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. That seeing, Lot seeing them. Let's go to Matthew 13:16. Matthew 13:16. I'm going to try to move right along, but, you know. Matthew 13:16. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Not everyone's eyes and ears are blessed to receive the message. They mock and scoff and rebel. And here it says that Lot, seeing them, his eyes were blessed to see them, and rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face towards the ground, right? He waited to be visited, and once he was blessed to see his visitors, the two angels that came to the gate, he bowed himself to the ground, representing repentance. John 3:30. Let's go to John 3:30. We're looking at the story of Lot through a prophetic lens, right? Because the prophecy is embedded throughout the scriptures and almost all the stories, but you have to be mindful of what you're reading, and it opens up a whole nother level of understanding when you apply prophecy to the stories, right? Because once you go back and revisit the earlier chapters in the book, they read completely different, especially right from the jump in Genesis 1. It says, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. Genesis 19, still in verse 1. John 3:30. John 3:30. He must increase, but I must decrease. He that cometh from above is above all, and he that is of the earth is earthly. So he showed himself humble and repented and bowed himself with his face towards the ground. It shows being repented, because only up until you repent are you then being gifted with the messengers of salvation, because you are now blessed to see and hear and be visited. Verse 2. And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house. A servant of the Most High Yahweh Shai is now pleading and begging to be visited by the angels of the Lord, the two anointed. Let's go to Revelation 3:20. Revelation 3:20. Revelation 3:20. Revelation 3:20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him and he with me. Right? So he's offering them to come into his house to sup with him. Right? And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night. Stay as long as you like, because it is nighttime. Right? He's wanting to be fed and be visited by the Lord's anointed. And tarry all night and wash your feet. Washing your feet represents being cleansed by pure water, because we are walking in a land barren of living water. When you hear through the scriptures that our ancestors have walked through lands barren of water, it represents a place that does not have living water, righteousness, because the word is the word that is able to wash you and make you clean and establish you in righteousness. And ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. Rising up early. The prophets are always rising up early, appearing to the elect before judgment ensues. Right? Rising up early. Um, as I say, Second Chronicles 36 and 15 and 16. Um, yeah, let's jump. Let's go and get that. Because there's maybe someone who doesn't, you know, I can't expect everybody to understand. Second Chronicles 36. Second Chronicles 36. This is in the back. Second Chronicles 36, 15 and 16. And Yahweh, our power, of their fathers, sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked at the messengers of the Most High and despised his words and misused the prophets until the wrath of the Most High Yahweh power rose against his people till there was no remedy. You apply these two precepts found in Second Chronicles 36 verse 15 and 16 to what we're reading in the story of Lot. You know, this is the same thing that's being told through the story of Lot, how Lot was visited, and for the saving of his home, he was told to flee this place before destruction. But again, we're applying the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures, precept on precept, to substantiate this is a prophetic message found in Genesis chapter 19, right? Let's continue. Verse 2 of Genesis chapter 19. It reads in the latter portion, it says, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. These are the two angels, the whole house of Israel, the elect, the prophets that are in the streets warning the people, right? Let's go to Isaiah 62. Isaiah 62 and 6. Excuse me. Isaiah 62 and verse 6. I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Ye that make mention of Yahweh, keep not silent. And I will give him no rest till he establish and till he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. The messengers that have been sent out will not hold their peace. They will always be proclaiming and do their work on the streets. And you have internet streets here as well. Continuing in the latter portion of verse 2 of Genesis chapter 19, we will grab also, just hit me, a verse to substantiate that, where the prophets can be found. Proverbs 1 and 20. Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief places of concourse, in the openings of the gates. Right? In the openings of the gates. We opened up with how Lot met them, sitting at the gates. In the city, she uttereth her words. And it continues to go on how the rebellious mocked and scoffed and refused, and how they will not be heard in the times of their calamity, but will be laughed at by the Most High Yahweh power in Proverbs chapter 1. Jumping back into Genesis chapter 19 and verse 3. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned into him and entered into his house. Right? And he made them a feast and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. Right? This is an offering, a sweet offering. You know, this is probably Lot's first fruits that he is giving. Proverbs 8 and 17 we have. Proverbs 8 and 17. Proverbs 8. Proverbs 8 and 17 reads, I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. Right? This is Lot seeking the Most High Yahweh Shai early before judgment, right? Because he has repented and was and brought those prophets in to sup with him and to teach him. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned into his house. We're back in Genesis chapter 19, verse 3. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned into unto him and entered into his house. And he did make them, a feast with unleavened bread. Verse 4. But before they laid down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, Sodom goes into flaming lust, compassed the house around, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. Lot and the messengers, the prophets, were surrounded by enemies on all sides, every quarter. Quarter represents four, and four means around, means totally surround. Let's go to Micah chapter 5. Micah chapter 5, verse 7 and 8. And the remnant of Jacob, shall be in the midst of many people, as a dew from Yahweh, as the showers upon the grass, that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of the sheep, who, if he go through, both treading down, and he teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. Again, the remnant is in the midst of darkness, in the midst of iniquity. The remnant that has turned back to Yahweh power to receive the message of salvation by his prophets are in the midst of a wicked and perverse generation. Verse 5 of Genesis chapter 19. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. These vile and rebellious, they wanted to fornicate, and we can look at this through spiritual fornication, right? They wanted to soil them with iniquity, cause sin. And Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him, right? Lot went out and shut the door behind him, so there was no access for them to come in, right? These vials, these rebellious, these sinners did not have access to come into a place of refuge, right? John 10, verse 1 and 2. St. John chapter 10. John 10, verse 1 and 2. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. Right? These guys did not have access to come into the door, and Lot, that covering, shut the door behind him. So whoever was in his house would not be overthrown, right? Matthew 24 and 43. Matthew 24 and 43. Matthew 24 and 43. We're looking at the story of Lot through a prophetic lens. 24 and 43, I think I said. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would have not have suffered his house to be broken up, right? So Lot was aware of what was going on and was prompted on how to take action, and he shut the door behind him. It's a lot of spiritual things being said in a very short passage. So by unpacking it, you get to understand that there's prophecy embedded in the earlier chapters of the stories that we read. Verse 7 of Genesis chapter 19. It's still recording? Yeah. And I said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. This is Lot telling these wicked people, don't do wickedly, right? We read in First Chronicles chapter 16 and verse 22. He says, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Verse 8, Genesis 19. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing. So Lot was offering an offering unto the wicked not to commit iniquity, right? And in this story, he's offering up 2 daughters which have not known men, 2 virgins, right? 2 virgins. The 2 virgins can also represent the northern and southern kingdom elect virgins that will be the bride to the coming Messiah, the coming Savior. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing. For therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. That shadow of his roof is the shadow of the Almighty, Psalms 91 and 1. That place of refuge where the Most High Yahweh has put his name, right? Thinking Passover, right? Because if you read the story of Lot, he's to be covered in a time of judgment, passed over, and then being taken out, salvation. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. They wanted to judge him. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. Now we have enemies that are trying to break down the door. And we read in John chapter 10 that you cannot come into the door unless you meet the shepherd, for he is the only way that he is the only one that lets you in, right? These guys tried to come in another way. They tried to break down the door, but Lot shut the door behind him, right? He was privy to wisdom to allow those that seek diligently the Most High Yahweh Shai to receive salvation through the proper doctrine that is embedded through the scriptures. Verse 10. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. They shut the door, right? Representing in the likes of the parable of the 5 wise and 5 foolish, right? The 5 wise took extra oil in their lamps and waited for the bridegroom, as to where these guys are now trying to break down the door. Give us some of your oil. But the door was shut. Verse 11. Well, let's see. Let's go to Ezekiel 3 and 26. Ezekiel 3 and 26. I don't want to miss nothing. Ezekiel 3 and 26. And I will make thy tongue, Ezekiel 3 and 26, and I will make thy tongue cleave to the roof of thy mouth, that thou shalt be dumb, and shalt not be to them a reprover, for they are a rebellious house. Lot tried to reprove them when he offered them two of his virgin daughters, but they got angrier and they tried to break down the door. So Lot got pulled into the house, just like Noah in the days of Noah, and the Lord shut the door, right? The Lord shut him in, just like how Lot is being shut in. Verse 11. And they smote the men that were at the door. The prophets, the 2 angels, they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, right? They smote them with blindness. Now they can't see. They can't see. There's no light in them. They were smitten with darkness, right? These 5 foolish virgins, if you will. 2 Kings 6:18. 2 Kings 6 and 18. And when they came down to him Elisha prayed unto Yahweh and said, smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness, according to the word of Elisha. That blindness, groping at noonday, represents not being able to understand the wisdom. They were trying to break down the door and come in another way to receive this understanding, but they were rebellious. Their heart wasn't right. They did not turn back and repent like Lot did, and were shut out and be smitten with blindness, right? And both small and great, we're back in Genesis 19 verses 11. It says in latter portion, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door, right? They were smitten now, right? Small and great, they were not spared. We read a similar verse in Ezekiel chapter 9. Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 5. And to the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city, and smite, let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children, and women, and so on and so forth. These are the rebellious. These are the 2/3 and the rest that reject the words of the prophet. And you will be, the remnant will be sealed and shut off from the rest as judgment ensues. And they smote the men with, we're back in Genesis chapter 19, verse 11. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so they wearied themselves to find the door, right? Proverbs 4 and 18. Proverbs 4 and 18. Proverbs 4 and 18. But the path of the just is as the shining light, that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble. Right? So the righteous are given the light, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And the wicked are in pure darkness. You know, if you go back to Genesis 1 and add these, add this prophetic understanding, it starts to open up a new path for your understanding. Verse 12 of Genesis 19. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. The messengers are telling Lot to gather together his family and to be ready to make haste to leave, not to make Sodom and Gomorrah a place of refuge, because it's going to be destroyed, right? Verse 13, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great. We read that in Ezekiel chapter 9. I should have read verse 4, but Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4 and 5 goes into this portion. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great. The men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that are done therein. And Yahweh have sent us to destroy it. The Most High Yahweh Shai is going to send forth his angels to utterly destroy and pull down these wicked nations. Verse 14, and Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters. Right? Sounds like there was more than just 2 daughters in his house, because he was offering up 2 daughters that had not known men. And here we have married daughters, sons-in-laws that married daughters, right? And he said, up, get you out of this place, for Yahweh will destroy this city. They were given a warning by the prophets to go and flee. You flee in this time spiritually and make haste to receive his word and the truth of the doctrine. So you are mindful of the prophetic timeline of things to be watchful for, and not to partake in the systems that are being set up as snares. This is a message for now, and this is going into the prophetic message in the story of Lot. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. So he had someone, his son-in-law was mocking him, right? So now we have those that receive the word, and we have those that are mocking, which they rebel and they scoff at the message. Verse 15, and when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot. This was the trumpet sounding long, saying, arise, take thy wife. Lot represents the covering, right? The wife can represent Judah and Israel. The wife. Yahushua is our covering. The 12 tribes, the elect, and the mixed multitude will be considered his wife. And the 2/3 are considered his wife as well. But the 2/3 reject, scoff, and mock. And the 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. This brings me to Revelation, right? Revelation 18. Revelation 18. Revelation 18 and verse 4, it says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Right? You can apply the same understanding in that verse in Genesis chapter 19 and verse 15. And these two daughters definitely can represent Judah and Israel. Right? Let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 16. Ezekiel chapter 16. Ezekiel chapter 16. The 2 daughters that are in Sodom and Gomorrah here. Ezekiel chapter 16, 44 to 47. Ezekiel chapter 16, 44 to 47 reads, behold, everyone that useth proverbs, shall use this proverb against thee, saying, as is the mother, so is her daughter. Right? The mother can represent the northern kingdom, and the daughter representing the southern kingdom, because Judah went a whoring after Ephraim. Ephraim transgressed first, and then Judah went and followed. Right? That's found in Jeremiah chapter 3. Continuing on in Ezekiel chapter 44. Thou art thy mother's daughter, that loathe her husband and her children. And thou art the sister of thy sisters, which loathe their husbands and their children. Your mother was a Hittite, and your father was an Amorite. This is talking about Abraham and Hagar, I believe. Sarah. And thine elder sister is Samaria. The elder sister is representative of Samaria. She and her daughters that dwell at the left hand, and thy youngest sister that dwelleth at thy right hand is Sodom and her daughters. Yet hast thou not walked after their ways, nor done after their abominations, but as if that were a very little thing, thou wast corrupted more than they in all thy ways. So unpacking this and applying the prophetic lens to what is being said in the story of Lot, the 2 daughters can most definitely represent Judah and Israel, Ephraim and the southern kingdom. Jeremiah 3, 6 and 8. Jeremiah 3, 6 and 8. And Yahweh said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel have done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there played the harlot, And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me. But she returned not. And her treacherous sister Judah saw it. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. You see how they also turned back, right? We'll get into the latter portion of the story of Lot, how Lot's wife turned back. We can apply this same understanding. Verse 16 of Genesis chapter 19. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his two daughters, and Yahweh being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. So now they were separated. The parable of the sheep and the goats comes into mind. The salvation of the remnant comes to mind. Continuing on, verse 17, Genesis 19. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. Right? This is make haste and escape before the said judgment being poured upon Sodom and Gomorrah. And Lot said unto them, O not so, my lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. Right? He was given the wisdom, knowledge, understanding on how to come to salvation upon repenting and receiving the sound doctrine of what the messengers were bringing to Lot. Lest some evil take me and I die. Oh wait, he says, I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. There is a parable being spoken here and referencing a little one. He mentions it twice. In the King James Version of the Bible, these jots and tittles and these semicolons, they help identify subtle parables and when to really hone in and get the deeper understanding of what's being said, right? Especially within the King James Version 16:11. These jots and tittles, they mean so much more. 21. And he said unto him, see, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Right? This city, this little one that he wanted to dwell in. Haste thee, escape there, for I cannot do anything till thou be come there. He's not going to set forth his judgments until the elect are sealed. Right? Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. Zoar, when you go into the Hebrew lexicon, the Blue Letter Bible, it goes into little. And then the etymology of that is insignificant. H6820. And little, H6819. We read in verse 20, he says, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape there. Is it not a little one? Zoar, representing Lot and the two daughters being the remnant, the insignificant, the little, the remnant that is being spared, that little city that is being reserved, where the Most High Yahweh, where Yahweh Shai will place his name. Right? Let's go into 23, verse 23 of Genesis 19. It says, the sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar, right? That safe haven. The sun was now risen, right? Righteousness was now shining forth. Then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. Now judgment is ensued, right? And he overthrew those cities. He overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities, right? These are the ones that were not sealed, the rebellious, and that which grew upon the ground. But wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Lot's wife, representing that 2/3 that went back, the wife of Lot. Lot represents that covering. Yahweh Shai is our covering. And the wife, the 2/3, have turned back and chose not to return. Verse 27, Genesis 19. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before Yahweh, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. The same thing is going to happen to spiritual Sodom and Egypt here in the West. Babylon the Great, it's going to go up in a smoke of like a furnace. 29, Genesis 19. And it came to pass when the Most High Yahweh destroyed the cities of the plain, that the Most High remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. The Most High Yahweh power has kept his word with Abraham, saying, I will always leave a remnant seed in the earth, right? And he sent the remnant out, Lot, out of the midst of the overthrow, when the overthrow of the cities in the which Lot dwelt. We're almost done. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain with his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters, right? He didn't feel comfortable in the land that was supposed to be a refuge unto him. And it says that he feared. We are not given the spirit of fear. This shows that upon receiving salvation, that now Lot is starting to turn away and forget. And he dwelt in a cave. A cave, I forgot where that precept is, but I need to find it. Dwelling in a cave represent not having a natural homeborn land. I read it somewhere. You don't got to believe me, but that's what it represents. He and his 2 daughters. Now the remnant is now dwelling somewhere other than their place of refuge, because they have been swept with a spirit of fear. And the firstborn said unto the younger, the firstborn representing Samaria. Jeremiah 31 and 9. Jeremiah 31 and 9. Jeremiah 31 and verse 9. And they shall come with weeping and with supplication. And they shall come with weeping and with supplication will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Right? Samaria represents the elder sister, the firstborn. Okay, jumping back into Genesis 19:31. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we shall lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. On the surface level, it reads as it is. It's called incest. It's called incest, right? In the spiritual, it shows that they are causing their brethren to commit iniquity by drinking wines. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 15. Habakkuk 2 verse 15. It says, woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. This is now causing others to go astray by giving them wine to be drunken. This goes into committing acts of iniquity again, because after leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, they turned back and started, transgressing all over again. The firstborn and the younger again. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. Again, Judah and Israel went off and committed iniquity again. Ezekiel 16 and 46. I'll just make that a reference. Well, no, I'll go to it because it mentions the younger right here. Verse 34. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, behold, I lay yesternight. Ezekiel 16. Yeah, Ezekiel 16. Salakia, if this is a very long-winded lesson, but sometimes, it takes a lot to unpack what's being said in the scriptures. Ezekiel 16 and 46. Ezekiel 16 and 46. And thine elder sister is Samaria, she and her daughters that dwelled at the left hand, and thy younger sister that dwelleth in thy right hand is Sodom and her daughters. So the younger sister representing Judah, right? Judah went to whoring. We read that in Jeremiah chapter 3. What was I going to get? Give me 1 second. We're almost done. Just want to make sure I didn't leave nothing out. Anyway, 35. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Benami. The son is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. So I pray that this was helpful and edifying to the elect. And Salakia, if I have missed any verses that could have expounded a little better, but I pray it was edifying for the next person to get some understanding. With that, for another opportunity to bring forth some edification. Until the next time, Shalom.